to the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, here as always with Nima Tavali. So it was supposed to be the weekend that Napoli celebrated the third Scudetto of their history. The first, it should have been in 33 years. It was all set up for them after Inter beat Lazio. They only had to beat Salernitana, but they could only draw 1-1. And the party was spoiled. The party was put on hold. It was going to be the craziest party ever. Some of the things that were planned were going to be absolutely amazing. But it was spoiled and it's only been put on hold. It will happen later this week, but it was very, very disappointing. But there's plenty more to talk about in the show today. There was that Inter win over Lazio. There was a crazy ending between Roma and Milan. 2 goals scored deep into injury time. And of course, there was Juventus failing to win again at Bologna. Their crisis goes on, and it really is a crisis with Max Allegri facing a very, very broken dressing room. A lot of crazy stories coming out about players, important players, unhappy with him. And Atalanta winning as well to make the top 4 race really, really tight. So it's going to be a big show again, as always today. This is our free weekly episode, which we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all our content that we do throughout the week, including our weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all the questions sent in from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and you can become a subscriber for just $2.99 plus VAT. And for all of you that are listening on Spotify, on iTunes, on Apple Podcasts, we'd really appreciate a 5-star rating and give us a follow and subscribe to us. It really helps us grow. We're also on YouTube as well, so check us out there. Okay, Nima, let's get straight into it. So let's start off with Napoli. I had a really big show planned today to talk about this amazing Scudetto. It was going to be really good, but we've had to put it all on hold. So,
but we'll talk about it on Thursday instead. That's what we've got to talk about. Because
we'll see. We'll see. Because I mean, like I said at the top, Napoli only had to win against Salernitana to win the Scudetto. They could only draw, but they will still be champions on Wednesday if Lazio fail to win against Sassuolo. Exactly. If Lazio were to win against Sassuolo, then Napoli need to get a draw on Thursday against Udinese.
Yeah, which I think we'll see. I don't think Lazio will beat Sassuolo. I think they'll draw Sassuolo because Sassuolo are in pretty good form and Lazio look a bit out of it. But we're going to talk about that as well because it's crazy to think they were 10 points clear of Inter just a week ago and now it's down to 6. But sorry, 4 even. Sorry,
4. Yeah. So, but Napoli, it was an anticlimax, and I, for one, was really, really disappointed because I was really looking forward to all the celebrations. I've heard of some guys some people that I know out there about some of the stuff that was planned, and it was going to be absolutely incredible.
A friend of mine and a listener of ours was there, and he sent me videos of what was going on. He didn't have tickets, of course, to the game, but he was just around the city, and he said that the atmosphere was insane. It was not like anything he'd ever seen. And he said, actually, even though they drew, they weren't disappointed. They were more like, okay, well, we'll do it on Wednesday then. Do you know what I mean? Like they weren't too upset about it. And they know that they're going to be champions, but this is a percorso, as they say in Italy.
I felt it would have been better yesterday, though. I feel like it would have been better. On a Sunday afternoon, mid-afternoon.
Of course,
you've got the whole day.
And
now if it happens on Wednesday evening, late at night, obviously they were playing away from. Well, they're not playing on Wednesday, but even if they were to win it on Thursday, they're not. They're playing away, so the players won't be there. There'll be an Udine. I mean, this was just perfect. They had it all planned. It was all prepared. It's all ready to go. In the light. It's a shame. It's a shame.
No, I mean it's a bit of a it's a shame. Yeah, but it's not like I don't. Yeah, it would have been the perfect storybook ending, but I don't think they. I mean, they're going to be champions. They know they're going to be champions, whether or not how and when. Because they're going to celebrate it for 6-7 months at least. It's Naples we're talking about. They don't do things in moderation, good or bad. So it's going to happen. It's just an issue of when and how and blah blah blah. And I don't think they really care. I mean, of course, it would have been nicer to do it on Sunday, but it would have been like more of a beautiful image. But who cares? They're going to win the Scudetto for the first time in 33 years. They could. I think they're going to win it without even playing on Wednesday night, and I think that it's going to be it's the game against Fiorentina is when they will properly coronate it, I think. And it's not, I mean, yeah, it would have been nicer this Sunday, but I don't think it's too much. I don't think people who've been waiting 33 years for this are too fussed. But I mean, broader point, I actually think this is a little bit of a lesson for Napoli, this Napoli side, young side. None of them have won anything of importance, really, except for Di Lorenzo, who's won a European Championship and I think a Coppa Italia or something like that with Napoli. But none of them have won at club level anything of this big. And so I think it's really, really, this is part of the growth, meaning you have to win. No one's going to hand you anything. If you want to become the champion, you're going to have to push your way through. You have to run across that finish line yourselves. And you not expect people to lay flat for you. And I think that's part of growth for a Napoli side, or for any team, not just Napoli, for any team that is young and inexperienced and is trying to learn how to become champions. I think this is part of that growth process. And to learn that you need to handle these games. This is what, Juventus and Milan and Inter, especially Milan and Juve, were always through the years so well known for. There's no way that Juve or Milan in that situation lose that 1-0 win. It's just not going to happen. Understanding how to handle these situations. It's a new situation for Napoli, and they will learn from it. And I think that in the long run, this might actually be a good thing for them to not take anything for granted.
Well, yeah, of course, you always grow from winning titles and winning trophies. I just think that it was just symptomatic, this game, of just kind of how Napoli have run out of steam towards the end of the season. And, the game as a whole, again, they weren't great in this game. I mean, they probably still deserve to win, but this wasn't the same, as it has been for the last month since the beginning of April. This hasn't been the same Napoli that we've seen all season. And I think they just have run out of steam.
Yeah, I think it's part of it. Yeah, and I think it's mental as well. I think it's
mental, yeah, but that is part of running out of steam. It's mental energy and physical energy. But they've won 2 of their last 7 games, and of those 2 wins, one was a lucky win against Lecce, and the other one was a 93rd minute winner against Juventus, where certain episodes went their way as well. So, I mean, it's, the home form has deserted them in the last month. They've not won any of their last 4 home games, which is really, really strange, given, how formidable they've been at home before that. And they lost to Lazio in March as well, remember? The 4-0 hammering by Milan. So the home form has deserted them. But, again, I think maybe this is, like you said, a lesson for
a learning
next season,
curve.
Learning how to, pace, but also how to pace yourself throughout the season. I mean, exactly. you can say, okay, well, it's worked from this season. They've blitzed the rest of the opposition away, the rest of the league away. So it doesn't really matter if they run out of steam now. But if they wanted to say go further in the Champions League next season, then you can't run out of steam in April.
No, you've got to preserve your energy, both mentally and energy-wise, in terms of on the pitch, and learn to. There's also aspects of this in terms of the squad, the technical side. They need a deeper squad, which I think they will have, because I think they will invest in that squad to make it more competitive, regardless of who leaves and stays. Obviously, Osimhen would be a huge blow if he left, as we've seen. But regardless of that, I think that this is part of the growth process, and I think they will look at this, and Spalletti will revel in some way in this, saying and talk to them about this. He was already talking about it yesterday, saying, "Look, it just means that the party's going to last longer."
The other thing I wanted to say about their performances recently, and again in this game, is I think it will be interesting going ahead into next season, like how Spalletti adapts to teams starting to find Napoli out. Maybe some of this is down to them tiring physically and mentally.
I think so.
But at the same time, you watch how teams are playing Napoli now, and they're not even trying to go toe to toe. They're all playing the same kind of way with a reasonably low block, like Milan, like Lazio did.
That's part of the growth process as well. I mean,
finding because you can get found out after a while. The teams study you with all the science and the
analytics
and the stats available. You can see and predict very easily how teams play, the heat maps, the way players individually go, how Kvaratskhelia always cuts inside, for example, and how he's been not found out, but teams are starting to read him recently more, knowing their movements. So then it's down to the manager. That's where the manager comes in and his team to work out a way to slightly tweak the formation, tweak the movements, tweak the positions, little things
to counter
like that. To counter it. And that's where so that's where it's going to be interesting for me to see how Spalletti counters.
Well, that's the development. That's the growth process I'm kind of referring to as well. Taking the next step. Once you are the champion, everybody wants to knock you off your crown. And regardless of the mercato or the transfer window, there's also it's a skill in and of itself to retain your crown, to retain your title, to push further in Europe and so on and so forth. So, no, I think it's all part of the growth process, and I think it's both for Spalletti and this team. And I think once they've won the Scudetto, they will always be champions. And I think just that hurdle, that mental block, will clear a lot of things in their heads because of always being perennial losers, never always the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of thing that Spalletti himself has always been kind of the embodiment of. All of that will disappear because he will have won everything in Italy when he becomes the oldest coach to win the Serie A title. And that is then the question becomes how to take the next step and to retain. It becomes a new development. It becomes a new journey they go on together.
For sure.
And that's something that I'm very keen to see how they handle it.
Yeah. Just a quick word on Salernitana. Big result. Big result again for them in a relegation race. They're now 9 games unbeaten under Paulo Sousa. He's done a really, really good job because I don't think many people were really huge fans of Paulo
I have
Sousa.
to be the first one to admit that I did not see him coming in there and tightening them up defensively, because when we last saw him in the Serie A, it was anything but defensive tightening. He's come in there and he's got them so organized, so disciplined, so cohesive as a unit in the defensive phase. I was incredibly impressed by them. I love the mentality they showed. I love the attitude they showed. They were no pushovers. They were not going to come in there and allow Napoli to bully them and run them over. No. They came there to win a point because
it was no fluke either, because we've seen how consistent they've been, because they've gone on during this run they've gone unbeaten to Napoli, Milan, both away from home. And then at home to Inter. Okay, they rode their luck in the Inter game, but they're it's no fluke when you take points off all 3 of those teams. So you have to give it to Paulo Sousa. His managerial career was probably on a downer, and maybe on its last legs, and now he's really he's refound himself now.
No, he has, and I think he will. I mean, if they can give him a proper transfer window and he can have a proper pre-season, with the squad they've got. And if they get to keep some of their players and not have to sell, then I think they could even be a mid-table side. But I do expect Boulaye Dia to be sold to a top 6 team in the Serie A, because he has been outstanding this season.
He's been one of the signings of the season. I would put him in my top 5, maybe even top 3 Serie A signings of the season. This season, he's been incredible. I mean, he scored 12 goals this season. None of them are penalties. Only 2 players in Serie A have more goals than Boulaye Dia this season when you exclude penalties, and that's Osimhen and Lautaro Martinez, and that's Lautaro only because he got a couple on Sunday, managed to move ahead. So he's fantastic, and I feel like he's just got a bit of everything. He's tall, he's got the physical side of things, he's quick,
He's technical. I mean,
technically
you saw
very
what he
good.
did to Osimhen. I mean, he does a nutmegs Osimhen, dribbles 2 players, and then
and with his left foot as well. I mean, he uses both feet. I mean,
that's a player who's going to end up in the top 6 Serie A team if he stays in the Serie A. If not,
I remember when he moved to Villarreal, there was big hopes for him for Villarreal, but it never worked out for him. But he's been absolutely brilliant, and I think he's definitely grown, and he's definitely worthy of a bigger club, like even like a 3rd or 4th choice striker at one of the big clubs potentially. But leading the line for a Europa League team, I'm sure he has the tools to do that
for sure.
Fantastic. Okay, right. Let's move away from Napoli. Let's move on to Juventus. Huge story that broke on Sunday. And it's not just one story either. It's a few stories that have broken over the weekend. And first of all, it started off with Dusan Vlahovic a couple of days ago with La Stampa, and I've seen another report in Italian media today from another newspaper that have backed this up, that Dusan Vlahovic is very, very unhappy with Allegri, and he basically is more than considering leaving Juventus in the summer if Allegri stays next season, because he feels like Allegri has really ruined his career and is ruining his career. That was the first story. Then we had on Sunday morning, we had Gazzetta, and I've forgotten the journalist, her name now. It's the one that had the argument with Allegri on Saturday. Basically one of, if not the top Juventus journalists right now, Insider, and I've totally forgotten her name, but everyone will know that's listening to this.
Me too. It's so annoying because I know who you're talking about. It's really annoying.
Is it Fabiana?
Yes,
Fabiana,
thank you. What's her name? Yeah, Fabiana. Oh, never mind.
Fabiana, anyway, from Gazzetta. It's on the tip of my tongue. I've totally forgotten. Anyway, she reported. She came out with a story that basically Di Maria had refused to play against Bologna.
Fabiana Della Valle. Jesus.
That's it. Della Valle. She's fantastic. She's got proper inside knowledge. She's got a mole in the dressing room, basically, to put it that way. Di Maria refused to play when he wasn't going to be in the starting 11 against Bologna. And as soon as he found out that he wasn't in the starting 11, he suddenly told everyone that he told the management that he had an injury and that he couldn't be on the bench, and that there was never an injury. He'd been training and everything. So yeah, put 2 and 2 together. Make of that what you think. And she wasn't the only one. Tuttosport and some others also backed this up. And I've spoke to a few people as well who supported this. That basically Di Maria didn't want to play, and also is also has a bad relationship with Allegri. Then we had on Sunday evening, after the game, our friend of the show, Adrian Del Monte, who reported that Federico Chiesa is deeply unhappy with Max Allegri and is also considering leaving the club in the summer if Allegri stays. He's unhappy with how he's being used, not being played in his correct position, just basically how he's been managed. I've known about this story for over a month, but I've had to keep quiet about it. You've probably heard me hint that I knew something about Chiesa. So I've known about this for a long time, that how unhappy he is with Allegri. So you've got 3 there. You've got basically the whole front line, the whole first choice front line. And I just to add to that, I've also been told that I can't name who it is. I've also been told that a very senior player at the club.
Oh, we know who it is. It was all over the internet yesterday.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to say it. If you want to say it, you can say it. But there's a very senior player at the club who leaked the Di Maria story, but is leaking stories to the press about he's anti-Allegri and he's leaking stories to the press.
That does not take a lot of.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty obvious. I mean everyone knows. You know his character. You know
the problems he's had with Allegri in the past as well. So he's kind of getting.
Okay, you might as well bloody say it, Nima.
But it's all over the internet on Twitter, so it's not hard to.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, always gets you out of trouble, doesn't it? Just make up. Just.
Well, say the most.
You can say the most libelous things and just put allegedly at the end of it, and it's all right.
Oh dear.
No, but seriously though, I mean, I mean, this isn't good. This
well,
really
of course,
isn't
it's
good.
not good. It turns out that you need a sporting director, you need a management, you need a CEO, you need actually to have a società. You can't just run a football club like you run, like a family business that you just opened up a little, hot dog stand and selling hot dogs at the corner. No, Juventus are a big club. They need to be run professionally. They don't have any structure at that club whatsoever. They only have a coach, and he's the one being hung out to dry for everything. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing by Juventus standard. What is going on? And yesterday, what was that pre-match ridiculous thing about we might not even bring in a sporting director? Seriously? What's going on at this club? Like, seriously, what are you doing?
Sounds like Manchester United. Do you remember when Woodward was like, for that, everyone was like, well, you need a transfer direct. We need a transfer
You need people who run the club. Juventus have been the most organised club, whether you like them or not. Like, we don't need to go into all that. Whether you like them or not, they have always been the most organised, well-run, oiled machine in Italian football. And now there's just nothing there. There's literally nothing there. And that's, I wonder why it's happening now. Well, the saying when the cat's away, the rats, what do they say? When the cat's away, the mice dance on the table. Well, here the rats are moonwalking on the table. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the bigger picture. But we're talking here about players who are unhappy with the way that they're being used.
That's the job of a football director, to keep the players happy, to manage the peace, to do all of these things, to manage the relationships, to keep everyone happy, to keep that guy's agents happy, to keep that one's wives happy. That's what they do. That's part of the job, and there's nothing there. And instead, it's just Allegri this, Allegri that. Well, what do you want him to? He can't do all of those things. It's not his job.
No, that's all true. Managing the relationships, that is all true. You're spot on. But we're talking. I mean, we're in the case of Vlahovic and Chiesa, they're unhappy because of the way that they're being used as players and the style of football and how they're being. What is going on the pitch is, and we've seen what's happened to their careers. I mean, under Allegri. I mean, they've completely. I mean, their careers have gone completely off the rails. They've turned from two of the most exciting young players in European world football to just shells of themselves under Allegri. So you can understand why they are so unhappy in the way that they're being misused.
Vlahovic, I think he needs to look a little bit in the mirror as well, as we've said before. I think there's a little bit of self-reckoning there as well. With Chiesa, I think it's different. I mean, Chiesa's frustrated, but he just came back from an ACL, didn't he? I mean, he was always going to be managed slowly back after that series, and I'm happy that Allegri has done that, because he is the future. He's the future star poster boy of Italian football. We've all agreed on, everyone agrees on that, and I don't want him to go the Zaniolo route with another ACL, which would effectively kill his career.
That's fine, though. That's fine with managing his minutes, but we're talking about how he's being used positionally, and he's being used, out of position all the time. And
that's another story.
That's the issue. That's the issue that Chiesa has, and that's why he wants to leave if Allegri stays. But yeah, it's a mess. I mean, he's clearly lost the dressing room. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Well, he's maybe not the entire dressing room, but he's lost important sections of the dressing room. He's lost the front line, which probably helps explain why Juventus as bad as Allegri's teams are at scoring and creating chances. I mean, it's horrific. The last 8 games, they've scored 5 goals. That helps explain why the attack is also. And those 3 are underperforming. All 3 of them are in dreadful form, all 3 of them. I just, when you lose the faith of the players, it's all over for the team in terms of getting good results. And again, it helps explain the terrible form that Juventus are in. And that leads me to the conclusion with Allegri is you're not getting the results. One win in 8 games and complete free-fall. You're not getting stability. So all this, it just makes a mockery of this idea when people say, but Allegri's bringing stability.
Well, he's the only one there.
What stability is he bringing?
What stability can he bring, Carlo? He's the only one there.
Well, he's not doing stability then.
Well, no, because there's no one else there. He's the only one working. There's no one else there. He's literally, it's the nuclear bomb has gone off. He's the only one there trying to clean this mess up.
Well, they do have others in positions now. They do have others in position. It's not like they don't have they have a chief football, they have a president.
It's all interim. It's there's nothing coherent there. They don't even know if they're going to be in the Serie A next season. They don't know anything. And this notion of Allegri being the culprit for that is utterly bizarre to me. It makes no sense. I'm not saying the football.
But he's not bringing
tactics,
stability, though.
He is bringing stability. He's
not bringing any.
One
the whole dressing room is.
It's not the whole dressing room. It's Vlahovic and Chiesa and Di Maria. Di Maria has been, well, let's be honest, he doesn't even really want to be.
And the most senior member of the dressing room that's leaking stories.
That he's always had an argument with for the last decade. That he literally has chastised publicly in I don't know, press conference after press conference. Come on, let's be measured here, right? The results on the pitch are, of course, he is to take responsibility for that as well.
Nima, if your entire attack hates your guts and you've lost the dressing room, you've lost the team. You can't win with the whole attack against you. I mean, what do you want? I mean, this is the problem. Is Allegri's not getting the results. They've got 1 win in 8 games and they're in free fall. He's not bringing no stability to the team when he's got so many players in the dressing room against him. And he's not, as I've shown in recent shows, he's not getting any improvement either. So there's not any kind of let's hope for the future with him, because his points average, his goals average, they're now the same as last season now after this draw against Bologna, and they're much worse than Pirlo. So there's no improvement there that you can say, let's stick with this coach because there's an improvement there. We're working.
That's ignoring the entire shitstorm that's happened this past year. A complete shitstorm, unprecedented, the biggest crisis in Juventus history. And we're just going to ignore that because he doesn't play like De Zerbi, passing in triangles. I mean, come on.
No, I'm saying it totally negates the argument that's been used multiple times about you should keep Allegri because he's improving, because he brings stability. Well,
because you have to look at the entire
he's not
picture.
Bringing improvement.
You have to look at the entire picture, and the picture is Juventus are a complete shit show. They're a dumpster fire off the pitch. And on it as well to a certain extent. But putting that all on Allegri and talking about, I don't know, that all of this is on him. Well, if you sack him, who are you going to bring in? And what do you think is going to happen? That is literally the only person building from the only link between the old Juve, what is the winning Juve, and this new Juve is Max Allegri. Now, I'm not saying he's going to stay there after this season. I doubt he will. I think he might be exhausted of this as well, to be perfectly honest with you, because this is not what he signed up for.
Well, Calvo, the incompetent idiot that's the chief football officer, basically confirmed him before the game.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do that count. I'll take that. I'll throw that as far as I can carry and throw an elephant. I don't believe anything.
Well, the thing is, Nima, if you accept, but my understanding from the people I've spoken to is he has complete support of the club and they're planning to go forward
because they're
next
good.
season.
That's
well, of course you'll say good, but
it's good for Juve. No, it's good for Juve. Well, the first thing they can do is actually bring in a sporting director, bring in a structure, a director of football, a CEO, something to help Juventus look towards the future, because none of that exists right now. I'm not saying keep Allegri. I'm okay, let him go in the summer if that's not what the new directors and the new leadership of Juve want to do. But there's nothing there.
The plan is, the thing is that if the plan is to get rid of him, or if the plan is that he's going to leave in the summer, which is hypothetical, but if that is the case, and you're saying you seem to be in favour of getting rid of him in the summer anyway, it seems to be.
No, I'm saying that this cannot continue.
No, what I'm saying is there is not. My focus right now is trying to salvage the rest of this season in terms of try and win that Europa League. Try and win the Europa League. Try and get in the top 4, even if there's a points penalty of it. Try and salvage the season by getting in the top 4 and trying to win the Europa League. The best hope of doing that is by sacking him and getting in the caretaker.
I profoundly disagree with that, because if it's thanks to him, despite all the sideshow and the circus going on the sidelines, he's got them with the number of points he's got on the pitch, and he's got them to the semi-final of the Europa League. I think sacking him at this point would be literally would be insanity. It's insanity. If people are unhappy, they'll be unhappy in June too. He's giving.
The thing is, we know what we're getting from Allegri by keeping him. I said exactly the same thing last week. They're in free fall, Nima. They've won one in 8 games. They're not in free fall.
They're in bad form, like every team are in free form or are in bad form.
They've got 1 win in 8 games. The whole attack in the dressing room is against him. I mean, just bring someone in. Get someone, a caretaker, till the end of the season as a joke.
Yesterday, against Bologna, he did exactly what you wanted him to do. Played a 4-3-3. They had a, 2.68 XG. Milik misses a penalty. Sule misses sitters. What else do you want him to do?
We'll come to that because Bologna had a very high XG themselves. But we'll come to that in the next segment. But the point I'm making is, if Juventus keep Allegri, you know what you're getting. You've seen it in the form that they're in, and you've seen the way that the players are towards him. Bring in someone just as a caretaker to the end of the season. Give them a jolt. They can't do any worse than Allegri. With Allegri, you know.
Oh, they can. They can finish out of the top four, and they can crash out of the.
Well, they're going to finish out of the top four, Nimmer, if this carries on.
Yeah, but the difference is that Max Allegri has the experience to handle this situation, and he's doing, I think, a pretty okay job. This hysterical, this hysteria. Oh, Chiesa's unhappy. He's unhappy. Casa, like what? I think if Juve were run by Juve fans, you'd never win a title. You don't
win with unhappy players. You don't win when you've lost the dressing room.
Well,
the results,
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. I mean, I know lots of former legendary players who I've interviewed through the years off the record, talking about how many players in legendary winning teams despised each other, but they managed to put all that aside. Not just each other, but even the coach.
Yeah, but there's difference between despising a manager but not playing for the manager, and not trusting and believing the manager. And they clearly, these players don't have any faith in the manager anymore. I mean, that's obvious. These attackers have no faith in the manager. They have no trust in him, which is why they want to leave. It's nothing to do with hating him. There's a lot of managers. Capello was hated by most of his players. You know, there's lots of managers that have been really hated. Conte as well. There's a lot of players that hate Conte. I mean, look how players feel. It's not necessarily about not disliking and hating the manager. It's about, do you have the faith and the trust in the manager? And they've lost it. There's no one has, the players don't have the trust in the manager. They bring in someone else. They'll play for that manager just for a few games. Then in the summer, try and sort out the whole mess of the club. But it seems, like I said, from people I've spoken to, he still has the support of the club. And I don't just take that from the public.
That's because
they believe in it.
Because
they believe in him.
Yeah, and that just goes to show that Juventus fans are lucky that Juventus is not run by them, but is run by people who who think with a cold head and not a hot head, and they'll do okay. They'll finish in the top four. What happens off the pitch is not Allegri's fault. If the points deductions, that is not on Max Allegri. And we'll see what he does in the Europa League. I mean, given Roma's injuries, I wonder if they even reach the final. I mean, they're completely decimated. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, let's move on to the analysis of the match. The performance, the 1-1 draw against Bologna. The performance, offensively, Juventus were better in this game. They created plenty chances to score more than the one goal that they never seem to go over anymore. But Fagioli had a double chance. Milik penalty, will come to that. Iling Jr. and Sule both missed good chances in the second half. Locatelli passed when he should have shot. So offensive they were good. They had you said 2.68. The 2.45 was the XG that mine, but they vary a little bit.
Yeah,
the XGs.
It is.
But they conceded almost as many big chances. They had an XG of 2 against them, and Posh, Abisha, Xerxes all had huge chances for Bologna. So I mean, it was better offensively, but it was they conceded almost as many chances. So I
saw they had an XG against them of 1.9, and they had 2.68 themselves. And I mean, that's a lot. But then again, let's remember this is Bologna. Bologna are a good side, especially at home. They beat Inter. They drew Milan. They will cause you problems at home, and they're not. It wasn't a Serie C side that you were playing. They were playing a decent side, and a decent side who's in form, and especially at home, and it was always going to end in a draw. I think I would have been incredibly surprised if Juve had won this game, because I think Bologna at home are really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue that I have with Juventus in this game is they only ever play well in small patches in games, and it was the same in this game. They were really, really good for about 10 minutes in the first half, and that's when most of their chances came. And they were really, really good for 10 minutes in the second half after Iling Jr. came on, and he completely changed the game when he came on, because the game was completely going away from them, and then he gave them an injection. But Juventus just can't maintain consistency for long periods over games, or even extended periods over games. It's always just a short burst here, a short burst there, and that's it. And let alone consistently for a whole game. And this has been a huge problem for Juve over the last 2 years. I mean, Bologna, after that 10-minute spell after Iling came on, Juventus were really good, and you thought, right, Juventus are going to go on and dominate the rest of the game now and win this game. They had that 10-minute spell, and then Bologna came back into it and were all over them, and Bologna created 3 huge chances after that. And it's just like, why couldn't Juventus maintain that physically, but also just in terms of their actual play? This is the issue that I have with Juventus in this game, is that it wasn't like they played well for even a long period of this game. It was just a couple of, short periods of the game that they had all their chances, really. It was the 100th. This was the 100th Allegri game.
Yeah, I saw that report, and that is so disingenuous. Okay, they make it sound like he's played 100 different tactical formations, and that's absolutely not true.
Well, he's never played the same team twice in a row.
He's changed a player or two 100 times. Yes, but that's not the same. They made it sound like he played 100 different formations, which is mathematically impossible when you've got 10 players on the pitch, unless he lost his mind and played a 2-2-4-6 or some shit like that. You know what I mean? 2-2-6 or some crazy shit like that he's not done. I mean, it's just this.
No, it means the players. It means the players.
Yeah, we're talking about personnel change, and I don't think that he's the only one who does that. If we look at the top 4 teams, and if you look at one player in and out over the last two years, I think you might be surprised as to how many teams that would constitute. To be honest, if you look at when Allegri came back and how the top teams, how many changes they've had in lineup personnel, I think it's not just Allegri. I mean, the way they worded that, the way they reported it, made it sound like he'd done 100 different formations in 2 years, which is just.
But to not play the same, not to play the same lineup twice in a row. I mean, not even once. I mean, that is very telling, and it's no surprise really that there is no patterns of play. There is no rhythm. And Gazzetta did a report yesterday that the constant lineup changes have left players confused and frustrated and affected their performances. I mean, that's just natural. That is natural when you change the team. But it's not just the players actually, though. It's their formations. I mean, Allegri's changed formations so many times, and it is impossible as a player when you're changing lineups so much. You can't get any kind of identity or rhythm or work your patterns of play or your movements on the pitch, and where you do your little 1-2s and your little third runs and your little give and goes and your little triangles. But when you're changing systems and players all the time, it's impossible to do that. So I mean, I think that there is definitely truth in that.
I think to a certain extent, yeah, but the way that was presented, I think, was incredibly disingenuous. And I remember reading that, going, well, agenda's gonna agenda. It just felt ridiculous to say that, because yes, he's not played the same lineup, meaning personnel wise twice maybe, but the way that was reported was just incredible. The other negative, just to get the negatives out of the way, is the defense wasn't good again. And you were very critical of Juventus' defense. You were critical of Juventus' defense against Inter. I didn't think the Juventus' defense against Inter was as bad as you made out. I thought I was more disappointed with the non-existent attack against Inter rather than defence. I didn't think the defence was horrific against Inter. I mean, except for the goal. The goal was bad, but apart from the goal, I didn't think it was that bad. But in this game, they were. I mean, I understand it was partly because they were trying to play a bit of a higher line. They were trying to push. You are going to concede more, but the issue is here, because I know you're going to have a go at me and you're going to say, "Well, what do you want, Carlo? He's trying to attack in this game." No.
Let me finish. No. You will be right to an extent in that he has tried to attack and take the game and tried to play with a high line, tried to be a little bit more progressive. And you're right. The problem is, though, it's not just about doing that. It's about being able to execute it well. And this is the problem in which Allegri hasn't been able to adapt to modern football, and he's outdated. Is that when you play a high line and when you play with a high press and when you try and be more aggressive and when you play a 4-3-3, I've been crying out for him to play a 4-3-3. You've got to be able to execute it and interpret it in a way that will make it successful. And Allegri has shown himself, certainly during these 2 years, that he's unable to play that kind of football and execute it because he just doesn't know how to do it. His comfort zone is playing the low block, the defensive counter-attacking game. That's how he knows how to set up a team. When he tries to do what we're crying out for, Juventus fans, which is to be more modern, and he doesn't know how to do it. And I think we saw that in this game, that yes, Juventus created chances, but they were leaving themselves open because they don't really know, Allegri doesn't really know how to set his team up to be effective enough, if you know what I mean. So
I know what you mean. But the thing is, for me,
the
defensive issues is not, yes, to a certain extent, yes, when you push up higher, you're going to expose yourself. I'm surprised at the lack of organization in defense. That's what I'm surprised at. There is, and I saw it against Inter, and I saw it against Bologna, and that to me that's Allegri. That's all on Allegri. I blame and hold him 100% accountable for that, because that is something he knows how to do. And the fact that they don't have that at this point, almost 2 years into his tenure, that's all on him. That is entirely all on him. There's nothing to save him there. Nothing, zero. And Szczesny saves Juve from that loss. He was outstanding. He was the man of the match for Juve, I thought. Szczesny, he was absolutely fantastic. He made save after save after save. He was very proactive. I thought he was brilliant yesterday.
Yeah, it's the ones where they're left at the back post is probably what you mean by the lack of organisation, isn't it? Like when we saw quite a few, didn't we? When there were players left at the back post completely free, and I think that's another myth of Allegri that's been put to, that has been shown up this season, but certainly recently, is that the two arguments for keeping Allegri has been, one, he brings stability, which given like the issues in the changing room, I just don't think you can't claim that he's bringing stability. I know there's reasons that it's very, very difficult to bring stability with all the stuff going on. Understand that, but the argument that he is bringing stability is just untrue. But number two is the idea that
everything is relative. Everything's relative compared to what would be if he's not there. Then yes, he is bringing stability. But of course, it's not.
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that.
I think we can safely say. Well, of course we do, because the unknown. Who? You think Andrea Pirlo would bring stability to this Juve? Seriously?
The players were much happier with Pirlo.
Oh, great. So is Juventus a social club or a professional football club? Because I mean, it's like it makes no sense.
Well, you need a happy dressing room, Nima. You can't win with a dressing room that. Anyway, listen. The point is, that's number one. The stability thing has been proven to be untrue, and number two, the idea that he sorted out the defense is just, again, is not true. I mean, they've 100 games, they've conceded 100 goals. Now, I'm not saying that's not terrible.
No,
conceding one goal a game is not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's not good. It's not good either. You're not.
No, but it's also a product of bad management. Why was the Bonucci situation, getting rid of De Ligt and bringing in Bremer, and then deciding that we don't know if we're going to play a back three or a back four, because we know that Bremer isn't very good at playing at a back four. I mean, it goes back to bad planning. It's just Juventus are in trouble, and they are trouble on many levels. And I think hammering Allegri and not Agnelli and Paratici and the rest of these idiots who put Juventus in this position to begin with.
Well, to be fair, we've done that, haven't we? We did that. We did that till the cows came home when they were still here. I mean, Paratici, my life.
Yeah, but Paratici,
how many times did I use that line? I use that line more than.
No, but it's just to me, it's just I find the situation. It's like, I find it a complete mess, and I can tell you that if you're in this situation that Juventus are in, I would rather have Allegri at some point than anyone else. The last thing I want is someone coming in there thinking they can play Joga Bonito and keep the players happy. I don't care if you're happy, deliver. You're adults. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is a mess. This is the biggest crisis Juventus have been in their history. They just need to be professional. That's all they need to do.
All I want is I just want Juventus to finish in the top four, and I want Juventus.
I think they will. I think they will finish.
And
I
want Juventus to try and win the Europa League. I feel like to win the Europa League, Juventus are going to have to fluke it with Allegri. The way they're playing, they're going to have to fluke it. They fluked it against Sporting. Completely fluked it against Sporting. Anyone that says any differently needs to rewatch those games.
They went through.
Anyway, if we're talking about positives, though, I do want to give a shout out to Illing Jr. I think he made a really big difference off the bench. As soon as he came on, he helped set up the equaliser. He nearly scored himself. He just snatched at the finish, which was a big shame. Much better than Kostic, Kostic is someone who's really gone off form. He's 9 without an assist or a goal. I mean, I know most of the players have thought their form has completely gone off, including the attackers, but Kostic as well has been one of the most productive players in terms of goal contributions, and he's really lost his way. As soon as Illing Jr. came on, he was taking on players. He was unpredictable. He was kind of like played with freedom, and yeah. So I mean, I want to see him get a few more chances between now and the end of the season. But we do have to mention Milik's penalty. Nima, is that the worst penalty you've ever seen?
I don't know what to say. It's just so symptomatic of where Juve are right now, isn't it? Like what was that? Can you explain to me what that was? Because I don't know. I don't know what I watched. I still don't. I feel dumbfounded.
Well, the hop, skip, jump. I mean, I did it. It was so wrong the way that he executed that he lost all his balance and power by the time he kicked the ball.
It looked like, you know, that feeling when you were in school and your parents try to dance and be cool, like that kind of cringe movement. Like, no, why are you doing that? That's not you. That's not who you are. Stop doing that.
That's you know what it's like. It's like you know, like when you've never danced in your life, and, and you go to a dance class, and someone tries to show you a move, and you're like, and someone says, "Go on, give it a try, give it a try." And you're like, "No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it." And they're like, "Come on, try it. Just give it a try, give it a try." And then you finally give it a try, and it just comes off like Milik's hop, skip, and jump.
It was so uncomfortable, and he should not be doing that. And where Juve are, in decisive moments, hop, skip penalties, no. Like, just no. Big no.
Yeah, it was awful. We also have to just mention quickly the penalty that Bologna got. The VAR not
the monitor
working
not working again.
What is going on? Nima, what is going on?
I don't know. How did the VAR monitor not working? It was,
I mean, this is a joke.
I was laughing. I'm not going to lie. That to me was like peak Serie A problems. Do you know what I mean? Like,
what is this technology?
Only Serie A. Only Serie A.
I mean, I know the internet is not good in Italy, but I mean,
you reckon?
I mean, I know the internet is so bad that DAZN works about 2% of the time in Italy. But
it's so funny, so funny.
I mean, who's supplying? Who's in charge? Is it DAZN?
I can't remember. Was it Inter's game against Empoli? I think it was last week when what's his name? The referee's mic didn't work, and they had to go and change it all the bloody time. And I don't know, the technique not working for them.
Yeah, and I'm not for 1 second going to use this as an excuse for Juventus not winning because I mean, Milik, we saw what he did with the other penalty. But I mean, I thought that was a terrible decision. How you can make the decision to give. I mean, I watched that incident again about 10 times, and I can't tell whether it's a penalty or not watching it 10 times.
It depends on what the referee saw. Again, like clear and obvious error. There's a reason why they're called these laws are called laws of the game, because the words are to be interpreted in the way that words are interpreted in a legal context. What that means is that a clear and obvious error does not mean like it does in everyday language. It means, what did the referee see? And if in the communication with the referee gives his side, and what he says that he's seen does not correspond with what is being shown on the screens, it automatically falls into the remit of clear and obvious error, and they have to call him back.
The point is, I watched that 10 times, and I can't tell whether it's a penalty or not.
That's another discussion. That's another discussion. But what I'm saying is, since we don't know what the communication between the referee and the VAR room. That's just, that's the protocol. That's how it works.
I know. I'm just saying, if you're going to change the decision and make it a penalty, for me, I've watched it 10 times. I can't tell if it's a penalty or not. So you shouldn't be changing that around, especially when the referee can't even go to the monitor. And
the monitor not working is.
Do you know what I mean? So I mean, I thought again, I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I'm not going to use that as an excuse for Juventus not winning this game. I'm just saying. I thought it was just a really weird decision and just an embarrassment all round. But anyway, let's move on from Juventus. Let's move on to
the whinge fest, the Allegri bitch fest. Is over.
Well, a friend of mine sent me your Twitter space at half time
when I was angry, when I was yelling,
really angry.
When I was yelling.
He sent me a 10-second clip, and in the 10-second clip,
I was screaming.
You shouted out, they just send them all to hell.
Yeah, I said send them. I said put them all on a spaceship and send them to the moon. Like just sell them all.
And apparently it was much worse before that. You were much angrier.
No, I was fuming.
That.
I was absolutely fuming because I thought, well, we're going to get to that, but I thought it was unfair because Inter were playing so good. And they were so much better than Lazio. It was a thoroughly deserved win. They played Sarri's midfield off the park for 60, 70 minutes. And, okay, yes, Correa is an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. The timing of that run is stupid. Any half-decent footballer would time that run better. But it's the Acerbi thing just drove me off the walls. Like, it literally... Because... You're playing so well against a team that is known for playing so well. You're in complete control. You're dominating them. You're dictating the tempo. Brilliant opening 25 minutes of football. And then, for no reason whatsoever, you just do something as stupid as that. I mean, he even acknowledges it. I mean, he apologized, saying he basically said, I shouldn't be doing that at this moment of the season, and that's what I lost it at.
But he slipped 3 times. He conceded another big chance to make it 2-0 when Immobile had his shot.
That's what I was fuming at, because it's unacceptable. You're supposed to be the experienced guy of this team, and you just drop kick your teammates mentally right in the balls.
His footwear must be to do it, because he slipped 3 times like that, and
that's what sent me off, because it's like, and it's been like this all season. It's like Inter just don't allow themselves to build momentum, and they just don't. And
overall,
shockwave.
Nima, it was a very
an outstanding performance.
Very impressive. I didn't think the first half was as good as you thought, but I thought the second half they were absolutely.
Well, the first half was ruined for Inter after the 25th minute when Acerbi did that and they scored the goal. Then the rest of it was just damage control. But the opening 25 minutes were brilliant, and what I like the most is the reaction in the second half. Absolutely loved it. Finally, we saw an Inter that came out and just brushed off whatever was going on, like the shockwaves that a stupid mistake like that sends through this team. They brushed it off. Inzaghi's substitutions were absolutely spot on. Finally, I got to see Çalhanoğlu, Barella, and Brozovic together, and Lula. You know, Romelu Lukaku will never score 30, 35 goals a season again. But if he's going to play like that, then this partnership is fruitful, especially now. It's so good because those 2 assists. I mean, anyone who listens to this pod know I've said I think he's incredibly underrated as a crosser of the ball. His left foot cross, he delivers brilliant crosses with his left foot, and for Gosens was another example of that. But also the way that he uses his body to cover and then plays in Lautaro. They were brilliant. I was very, very, very pleased. I thought Lukaku was the man of the match, even though he didn't score 2.
We got 2 assists.
Yeah, he got 2 assists. He didn't score twice, but he didn't score. But I thought he was the man of the match.
He's becoming. I said it, didn't I, last week? That even though it's not the same Lukaku, but he is becoming more and more decisive now. I mean, he's got 8 goal contributions in his last 8 games, and since the Udinese game in the middle of February, which is when Lukaku kind of was sort of like properly back from his injury troubles, he's got 10 goals and 4 assists for club and country. But I mean, that's pretty good from the middle of February. We're talking about 2.5 months, 10 goals and 4 assists, 14 goal contributions in 2.5 months. I mean, you do that.
Decent.
That's decent. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good, So, I mean, Lukaku is being effective now. He's not necessarily. I mean, I thought he was good in this game, but he's not necessarily playing great every game. But he's becoming effective, and. That's. I think
that performance, the football that Inter played, it made me fall in love all over again in Simone Inzaghi's football, because this is what I mean. Like, just go and watch that game. How well Inter prepare, how well prepared Inter were, how well they executed it. I mean, in terms of executing the plan, the problem is, of course, that Joaquin Correa is useless. And Denzel Dumfries is not a footballer. It is what it is. But if you look at how they come to those decisive situations, the patterns of play that you always go on about, the movement, the idea.
You say with such disdain.
No, I don't. I just, no, but seriously.
How dare they have patterns of play, eh?
No, they do have patterns of play. They have an identity, and he's got them playing some really good football. And the way that they control and dominate like teams, it's just the man. The thing is, he's not a sexy name because he's not going to come out there and say something cool for the cameras. He's an old school kind of guy. He doesn't change his tone when he wins. He doesn't change his tone when he loses. He says the same things. And in today's game, that's a little bit outdated, and it's not. It doesn't get the headlines. But overall, the football that he plays is not outdated. And
of course, it's not. No, I mean they had another 2.83 xG. I mean, Inter had so many games this season that have been in and around or above 3 xG.
His football is outstanding.
They create lots of chances, and he said it. Lautaro said it at the end after the match that Inter have found the form at the right time, and they have. They've got 3 wins in a row. It's really 4 wins in a row. I'm counting the 3-3 against Benfica as a win. They stopped playing and took all their best players off at the end because they knew they were through. I'm counting that as a win. They won that game. They just gave away the goals at the end because they were pissing around. So I think Inter are in great shape for ahead of the
but
Milan
we have
game
to be
week.
honest. We have to be honest. Look, if you look at the run-ins, Lazio have the easiest one. They got Sassuolo and Milan. Those are tough games. But after that, Lecce at home, Udinese away, Cremonese at home, Empoli away. I'm thinking 12 points minimum. I think 13 because I think.
Well, let me just ask that basically that Lazio were 10 points ahead of 5th. Then now it's down to 4, 2 defeats in a row.
Yeah.
So I mean, do Lazio risk missing out on the top 4?
They absolutely do. They absolutely do, because they are risking it. I still think they'll manage it because I think they'll beat Lecce, Udinese, Cremonese, and Empoli, and that's 12 points. And I think they'll draw against Sassuolo. That's 13 points, and 13 points plus the 61 I think they've got now. That's 74. That should be enough to finish.
I think Lazio make it unless they throw it away themselves. Lazio have to throw it away.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Even though they've obviously lost 2 games in a row. They've still got a 4-point advantage, and they have the easiest running out of Lazio, Juventus, Inter, Roma. Sorry, Lazio, Juventus, Inter, Milan, Roma, Atalanta. 6 teams. I mean, it's crazy. 6 teams,
and they all play each other this weekend, like this coming weekend, which we'll be talking about.
But Lazio have the easiest run. Lazio have Sassuolo at home, Milan away, Lecce at home, Udinese away, Cremonese home, Empoli away. Easiest run in. They have the 4-point advantage. They have no Europe. All the other 5 teams are playing in Europe. Juventus have got Lecce at home, Atalanta away, Cremonese at home, Empoli away, Milan at home, Udinese away. So they've got 2 tough matches out of the 6. And I would say Udinese away is not easy for Juventus the way they're playing either. Inter for me have the toughest running. They've got Verona away, Roma away, Sassuolo at home, Napoli away. Although the Napoli game might be easier now because they've got nothing to play for. Atalanta at home.
I wonder if Napoli even turn up to that game. Like it's just like literally.
It's not a bad time to play Napoli.
And in what state do they turn up to that game? Like, will they be sober when they turn up to that game? Like those are the questions I'm asking.
Milan have got Cremonese at home, Lazio at home, Spezia away, Sampdoria at home, Juventus away, Verona at home. So Milan have got a good run. I mean, they've got 4. For me, they've got 12 points or a gimme there. They've got four of those games are gimmies. They're going to get 12 points. So I think I'm favouring Milan to get in the top 4 purely because I think they've got a really good run in.
And also Milan at home to Lazio. Milan usually do well there. And Lazio don't look too well.
Roma's is so-so. They're
but they're decimated.
But they've got Monza away, Inter at home, Bologna away, Salernitana at home, Fiorentina away, Spezia at home, and then Atalanta, who are well back into it after a great win against Torino. Spezia at home, Juventus at home, Salernitana away, Verona at home, Inter away, Monza at home. So again, you're looking at 4 good fixtures and then 2 tough fixtures. So yeah, Roma
are decimated. Kumbula, Llorente, Dybala, touch and go, Wijnaldum, touch and go, Chris Smalling, we don't know when.
Well, the defence is decimated, I think the European games as well are going to take their toll for all the teams, the teams. Exactly. Obviously, Milan, Inter, everyone's focusing on, but let's not pretend. Juventus and Roma are going to have tough fixtures as well. So it's going to be fascinating. But let's talk about Roma Milan before we round up the Serie A weekend. I mean, this wasn't a great game, but it certainly was a great ending. I mean, it seemed like it was destined for a draw. I mean, for me, it was a bad very bad first half, slightly more entertaining second half, but few real chances. It was a attritional game, wasn't it? Lots of bad challenges, really bad challenges actually. It just seemed destined for a 0-0, and then it just out of nowhere it just came to life in injury time. Abraham scores in the 93rd minute, and Sailor-Maker scores 95th or 96th minute, whenever it was, and it finishes 1-1. And it was a fair result, though. I think in the end.
I think 1-1 was the fair result. And two things I take away from this is Milan and scoring at the far post, and the way that they overload the far post. There's a couple of things I've noticed now, a couple of weeks now, that every time Milan, that ball always goes at the far post, and they always put bodies at that far post and overload it and create a numerical advantage. And that's just an interesting thing. That's all purely, that's all tactical. That's clearly something they've worked on, and they keep doing it. They did it against Lecce. They did it now against Roma. No, I think Milan. Yes, I understand Milan fans were upset that they didn't really create much. It was very much a stalemate, like you said, attritional game. But look, it's at this point of the season, you have to treat every single game like a cup game. You know, it's as simple as that. And Milan are not deep enough squad wise to be able to compete for a Scudetto, compete for a Champions League. Like, they're just not. None of the Italian teams can compete on three fronts, really, which is why I'm so annoyed that they're so broke when they actually have, it would be nice to see them with a bit of money and see them compete on all fronts. But it is what it is. You've got to cut with the cloth you're dealt. And they're doing the best they can. And I understand the frustration, but I look at Roma and Milan the same kind of way. It's like, a point is not the end of the world. I think Roma's best chance again to get into the Champions League is to win the Europa League. I really think so, because of how decimated they are. I mean, Kumbulla is an ACL, I think. Llorente, Mourinho said his season is over as well. Yeah. Wijnaldum has had a dreadful season in terms of injuries. Chris Smalling, who is fundamentally important for them, we don't know when he'll be back. And Dybala, we don't know. Sometimes he's fit, sometimes he's not. I think Belotti cracked a rib. I mean, it's just mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, defence certainly, because Rome were already short on defenders. Yeah. Like they came into this season with too few centre backs, in my opinion. If you're playing a back three, but yeah, I mean, I think Milan showed heart again to respond straight away. I think it was important for Milan psychologically to lose that game in the 93rd minute would have been a big blow for them. Even going into the Inter game next week, it would have been a big psychological blow. But to then equalise straight after, I think. Is huge for that. Psychologically, we've seen with Napoli. We saw what happened to Napoli after that 4-0 to Milan. We've seen how just little psychological moments can really determine your season or your next few games. And it's important to keep that keep that up. And I think that I think that was very, very important for Milan. There isn't really that much else to talk about on this game. I'm struggling to think of things to talk about. I mean, Leao got a great assist at the end, so he keeps up his good run of form. But yeah, like we said, the top four, it's going to go to the wire.
It's absolutely going to the wire, and it's 6 teams. And like I said, next weekend, they all play each other. Milan play Lazio, Roma play Inter, and Juve play Atalanta. It's just mad. Yeah. Absolute madness. This league is never short on drama. That's for damn sure.
No, it certainly isn't. Right. Rest of the Serie A matches. So Lecce 1, Udinese 0, Spezia 0, Monza 2, Torino 1, Atalanta 2. Absolutely fantastic goal from Duvan Zapata. We haven't seen him do much of that for a long time. I think it's only his 3rd or 4th goal of the season, something like that. Cremonese 1, Verona 1, Sassuolo 2, Empoli 1. And Fiorentina 5, Sampdoria 0. Stankovic offered his resignation at the end of the game. This relegation race, I've been saying it for a while, that I think Spezia are in a lot of trouble.
I think they're in deep trouble. And that draw, I mean, Verona would have ideally liked to have won that, because I think if they had won that, they would have been in a much better position. But now they're on equal points, and they both midweek will play. I mean, Spezia travel to Atalanta, chasing a top 4, and Verona host Inter. at home, and at home Verona are good. They trouble teams. They're a difficult side, a heavy team to play against. So it's going.
They're
it's
in good form as well. They're in good form, and Spezia are not in good form. So that's why.
They're in free fall. I mean, if we're talking free fall, so
it's. I think even Empoli and Lecce, they're not out of it. And Empoli are in really bad form as well. They've lost 3 in a row. So I mean, I think Salernitana will be okay now. They've got a good gap. I think it's out of Empoli, Lecce, Spezia, and Verona for that last spot.
And Lecce won against Udinese, which was a monumentally important win. Now they travel to Juve, and they will look to try to steal a point there. But I doubt that they'll succeed. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we certainly will. Okay, right. So we have a midweek match calendar. It's going to be very, very busy now between now and the end of the season. So on Wednesday, we have Atalanta Spezia, Juventus Lecce, Sampdoria Torino, Salernitana Fiorentina, Verona Inter, Lazio Sassuolo, Monza Roma, Milan Cremonese. And then on Thursday, we have Empoli Bologna and Udinese versus Napoli. So we think, and let's say we hope, that Napoli will be champions on Wednesday, because then we can do a big show on Thursday to celebrate.
So. I think so. I don't think they're moving the Lazio game. I don't think Lazio or Sassuolo will want that. Unless they move it forward.
The Lazio should still beat. So I mean, to be honest with you, apart from Roma, I think all of the teams fighting for the top 4 should win. I think Roma away to Monza is, in the physical state they're in, is a tough game for Roma. They could easily drop points in that. But I mean, Verona, Inter, Juventus, Lecce, Milan, Cremonese, and Lazio Sassuolo, the top 4 teams should all win those games. They should.
I think Roma and Lazio have the
and Atalanta Spezia. Sorry, and Atalanta Spezia as well. We forget about Atalanta, don't we? We're ignoring them. They don't.
No, we're not. We're not ignoring them. I promise, we're not. I think they. I mean, the fact that they're still about is really impressive. But it also goes to show how what a weird Serie A this year is, in the sense that the top teams lose so much.
I don't feel like Atalanta have played anywhere close to well enough this season to actually be only 2 points to be only 2 points outside the top 4. I can't believe they are the way they played and how inconsistent they've been. But that shows you the teams above them how.
Well, that's the thing. Teams 2 to 7 have all been inconsistent. I mean, the number of losses on all of them.
It's insane. I mean, Lazio second with 7 losses, Juventus third with 8, Inter fourth with 11 losses.
11. I mean, it's just mad.
Milan 7, Roma 9, Atalanta 9. I mean, it's
a lot. It's a lot. It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah, it is. Okay, right. That's all. No, we have Baggio and Prem Face of the Week still, don't we? Yeah. Right. Let's do Baggio and Prem Face of the Week. Okay, Baggio of the Week, Nima.
I don't know. For me, it's
the Gomorrah character. You sent me a message of him. I thought you were going to pick him.
Who?
The character from Ginny from Gomorrah, the Neapolitan.
That's Roberto. No, that was you mean Roberto Saviano, the journalist. That's the quote.
Oh, was it? Sorry, I thought it was a guy. I didn't.
No, that was he's one of my favorite writers and journalists and authors, and he wrote something before the game about growing up in Naples. And if you don't know who Roberto Saviano is, he's a writer and journalist who lives under constant police protection for exposing organized crime in Naples, and he lives under constant death threats. And of course, he's from Naples, and he wrote something on Twitter that was, I just love the man's pen. It's so beautiful. He writes so beautifully. It's worth learning Italian just to read his poetry, almost, because it is so poetic when he writes, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I spoke about
that's why I thought Ginny, because Roberto Saviano was he's the guy that created Gomorrah, the TV series, which is what is Salvatore Esposito is a huge Napoli fan. For some reason, I thought it was him that wrote that.
No. Yeah. No, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful message, and I think we'll probably on Thursday, if they win it, I'll read it to you. I'll translate it properly and read it to everybody, because it's incredibly beautiful.
Okay, so who do you have as Baggio of the Week then?
No, it's I was going to go. I mean, for me that was beautiful, but yeah, I think this week I think Romelu Lukaku deserves it because of how he was so good. I was so impressed. I did not expect him to be this good, and he needs to be this good for Inter to have any chance. So yeah, I thought he was really, really good. And yeah, so for me it's probably Lukaku. Do you have anyone?
I'll go Roberto De Zerbi just to annoy you. 6-0 win despite resting all his best players, despite resting Caicedo, Mitoma, McAllister, basically rested all his best players and still won 6-0. Jurgen Klopp said it was the best performance he's ever seen in his career.
Stop.
So he did. I'm not making it up.
No, I know you're not making it up, but Jurgen Klopp and Guardiola, just the shit that comes out of their mouths sometimes. Just...
Okay, Prem Face of the Week, talking about shit coming out of people's mouths. Prem Face of the Week, come on, Nima, take this away.
That was bizarre. That was genuinely a bizarre experience for me. Because I don't follow Gary Lineker. In fact, I've muted him because I'm not interested in the stuff that comes out of his mouth. I think he's just I'm not interested. I find him boring. I find him mind-numbingly dull and inane in everything he says. So I've muted. I don't follow him. But our Prem Face hunter, Sam, he tagged me in a post because I think UEFA put a tweet out saying that who would you basically which defender of all time would you choose to bring up to mark Erling Haaland, and he went with Paul McGrath. And Sam tagged us both and said, I expected Gary to know better. And I replied, I didn't. And then our good friend Janusz Mihalik, who I actually really rate both as a person and as an analyst and is a very professional, lovely guy, he said, well, he has a point. I played against him. The guy's really good. And I replied, oh, absolutely. Paul McGrath is really good. But I don't think that out of all the defenders to play the game, he would be the first name on the list of people I choose to mark Erling Haaland. And to which Janusz said, very true. And then that was that. And then Gary decided to respond like an insolent little child and write 5 Z's as if he was bored and sleeping. And to which I replied, yeah, I agree. I find you boring. I think you're boring. And then he replied, what if you really floored me with that comeback? And I said, I doubt I floored you worse than your 2 dives or your dives against Cameroon in Italia 90. To which he said, oh, you're lying now. And then he blocked me like a child, which I think is hilarious. And it's the whole exchange was completely bizarre. So yeah, that to me.
Because I played Varys during this whole exchange.
Yes, you did.
And I told Nima to
mention Cameroon,
to mention the penalty, because if you ever, and everybody that's listening, if you ever want to trigger Gary Lineker, just tweet to him that he dived against Cameroon in Italia 90 and he loses it, and he'll block you straight away. So if it's important to you not to get blocked by Gary Lineker, don't mention his dive against Cameroon, because I did it once during lockdown when they were showing like old World Cup games over here in the UK on TV, and they were showing England versus Cameroon, and I tweeted out during it that Gary Lineker, that his dives against Cameroon were so blatant, and he replied to me really angry and really upset, like saying, it was basically GBH. And I thought he was kind of like half joking, and I said, well, it was actually it was actually worse dives than Gary Lineker that, and then he blocked me. And I thought, wow, So yeah, if you ever want to wind up Lineker, just talk about his dives against Cameroon in Italia United.
No, it was just bizarre. I found the whole exchange utterly bizarre because I wasn't, it was over. The thing was over, and and like I said, I don't follow him. I'm not interested in what he says. I don't care what he says. I find him to be completely, like I said, incredibly boring and like he just got nothing of interest that he says. I don't follow him. I've muted him. I don't want to, I'm not interested. And so I didn't say anything. I just, we just had a little discussion about Paul McGrath, who I actually rate. I think he was a great player. I just don't think he was one of the greatest defenders of all time to put, jumps off the list to on top of the list of defenders I'd like to mark Erling Haaland. I mean, I'd rather go with Gentile. I'd rather go with Lucio, Yapstam, Maldini even, Baresi. I mean, there's lots of players you could... Samuel. I mean, I could go on all day of players that I would rather have. And that's not taking anything away from Paul McGrath, but I don't think that Paul McGrath himself thinks he's as good as those names I've mentioned. So again, that's why it makes it such a prim-face exchange, because he said something trying to be a bit edgy, and then I was like, yeah, I in my opinion, those players I mentioned are better than Paul McGrath, and he got triggered, and the whole thing is just, and then it's just childish. But yeah, Prem face for the week, Gary Spodflogger Lineker.
Yeah. Okay, right. We'll be back on Tuesday for the Q&A episode, and then we'll be on Thursday for the midweek review show. Huge calendar in midweek, and hopefully we will celebrate Napoli's Scudetto win, and it will be, hopefully a historic week in Italian football and for Napoli.
It will be.
Yeah. Okay, right. Let's leave it at that then. Enjoy the week, enjoy the football, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Until then, ciao, ciao.